Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to make this component interactive. So we click on this button and it increases number. First, we would need to have state, and we could have active number. So it stores your information, and to be able to rebuild that in component, we would need to point in this text property, which is this one. We would need to make this function. And if we console log this function, this state property, we see that we have object here, which is this one. So we can reuse this active number here and say state.active number. Now we see this is 0, which is correct. Now we need to add functionality to increment this number on clicking this button. This is how we do it. On button, we have on property, and here we can add bunch of events, which could be click, could be hover, could be render, and so on. I'll send you a list of the all events, a possible event that you could apply here, but all native browser events will work. Now we need to add click event. First argument is event itself. Second argument is element that is the same component, returns the same component. If you log this, you'll be able to see the component itself, and it's for programmatic access. You could say element parent, and you can go to up above component and so on. And the third one is state. Now we need to work on state. So we need to update state on click. State has one method, has multiple methods like set, update, delete, and so on. Currently, we need updates, and most frequent, where almost 99% case is update. And now we need to retrieve our state active number, current one. So we can define active number from here, and we need to update state active number like this current one and say current active number plus 1. So the current value plus 1. Let's see if it works. It works. Let's try to add minus button now. So we would need to decrement the value. Let me switch to more minimalistic view. Instead of increment, decrement, let's use icons. So let's remove this text and add icon, which is minus, should be that. Great. And let's also reduce padding. To see this value, you need to go to design system, and if you want to change font size, we go to typography. If you want to change other sizing properties, we go to spacing, and we see the cheat sheets of variables that's applied to different size. So let's make it that minimalistic, and let's also use more lighter background. We can use white, and we can apply opacity, 10% opacity, and we can also add color to it. Cool. For more simplistic use, to not reuse those properties, if we name this property with capital case button, it will understand that this is component from our library, which could be our own made component or could be component from built-in functions, which is also accessible on components page. Let's add one more button for minus, and because in JavaScript we can have same names as in keys, we can use underscore to differentiate keys and say, for example, minus. It doesn't matter what we put here, it's just a name where we call the component, and the first part is the name of the component. And the second one, let's call plus. Let's change icon, and let's wrap those ones into the flex function, so we have layout, like a footer layout here. Let's create flex component, define props, move those components to here, nice. So we would need to increase the size of the whole flex section. You can see it here. So we need to make it 100% width. Let's try that. Yeah, we applied 100% to the div. As we see, it now takes 100% of the area. But now we need to lay out so it spreads the components and use the space like white space in the middle. For that, we have flex property, which is called justify content, and it works on the horizontal when you have horizontal layout, and you can align items inside. It's a CSS property, and we would need space between. Cool. Now, as we have minus button and plus button, they both do increment, and since they reuse almost most of the time the same functionality, now inside the flex component we can use child extend property, which will be template for every child component inside the flex. Now we can say, let's extend button, and let's have template for props as well. Now we don't need to use this button key anymore because we already have button as a main extend component. It could have also arrays, and you could have multiple components, so it would merge. Let's also remove most of the stuff from here and only leave icon. So now we have a bit more clean view of the whole component itself. Cool. So we have two components, and they use this template, and this template itself uses the button as a template. Cool. Now we need to have minor adjustments. So we say -1 here and +1 here. Now we see it works. And also, if we want to add more rules, you can have like different JavaScript logic here. So if we want to make it not down, not below 0, we can have we can add bunch of logic. For example, if current active number -1 is equal to 0, we can say return, which prevents function to execute. So let's make it like this way, not equal to 0, but if the current number -1 is less than 1, let's not execute this one. So if we get 2, 1, and if this is less than 1, let's prevent. Or we could also have 0 if we want to stick to the 0. Could apply the same logic as a max number and have a range of min and max values. To make it extremely programmatical, and if we just don't want to write this code and make it reusable, we can have basically in state we can have range array which will contain min value and max value. Now we can say here we can access to state again, state range. The first one would be 0, this one, and here we can reuse this one as instead of -1 point +1 should not be greater than this value. So let's see if it works now. Cool. So this sticks to 10. So we use states for keeping the dynamic information or information that could come from the external sources, or just a single source of information purely for business logic or content, and the rest, styling and functionality, can go inside the component itself. To allow more and more programmatic access, we can have more properties in more functions in the template as well. So we can even remove, since those like the component key and icon match, we can also remove that. And in template, we can have props as a function. As we know, first argument is element. Element has a bunch of properties like element state, element context, element key. Now we would need element key. Since this is a function, we can programmatically access each element from the template. And let's say icon, I want to be the key of the element itself. So in this case minus, in this case plus. This is how we reuse, and it's never-ending process of simplifying this process. We could also have a function for that. Let's say I want to move this function into the functions. Let's add one more function here. So I just want to reuse this. If I want to use it in multiple components, and I just don't want to have write it again and again, even in the same function. So first argument could be like what we want to achieve. Is it like increment or decrement? Say action. The second one could be element. Third one could be state. Cool. Now we say if action equals increment, else. So if it's increment, then increment number, otherwise decrement. You can move this out of this condition. Cool. And we can also multiply conditions into this if-else statement. So we also need to so we need this to be right to be able to execute this, and the same way we should just use it in increment, say actual number plus 1 . So if actual number plus 1 is less than my range number, execute this function. Otherwise, if it's decrement and actual number minus 1 is below than, I should say, yes, is not below than 0, execute this function. Let's call it increment and decrement function. Or we can just simplify that. Increment, decrement function. Copy this one, save this. Let's go back to our component. And now, instead of having this in multiple scenarios, let's access this function from context. So it's element context snippets. Later on, this will be called functions. It's currently snippets. I just invoke this one for decrement, increment. Obviously, that could be more better ways, more concise ways of doing that. I'm just showing the ways how you could reuse the code, and hopefully it will help. Now we don't need this, most of the values anymore. We need to import this function. And also pass this element and state to this function, so it will be able to access our element and state. Let's do it again. Let's also check the console. Okay, it couldn't find the function. Let's log what we have in snippets. So we'll see all the built-in and our made functions, and we should look for this one. Obviously, we return the snippets objects itself. We need to point which function in snippets we want, with just accessing with dot notation, or other way could be with destructuring. So we'll access this function now. And obviously I made a mistake on plus. On increment, it should plus the number. Let's see our functions. So if this is increment plus the number. Cool. Maybe to be like more safe, we could mention decrement. So we force ourselves to basically pass the first argument, whether we want to increment or decrement. Should be good. So now, great. Now we see it works, but it stops at 1 and 9. If we want to make it reach to the minimum and maximum value, we should add. So if it's equals, or if it's below or equals to the range number. Great. Hope this helps, and let me know if you need more advanced guidance.